Yeah, before we get to the game, this week's an important uh, game and week for our program and me personally. Really a proud member of a group that was put together this spring or summer to try to make some change in the world with areas that definitely need change, specifically in the world of social injustice and racism. And I was approached to be a part of a group that's called Eracism. I'm really proud to be a part of. Coach Bob Marlin, the coach at Lafayette, special relationship with Angela and Joe at the College Insiders. They've done so much for college basketball, specifically mid-major basketball, which I'm a proud coach at Little Rock and other places before we came to Tech. But this group was basically put together to try to be a part of the solution. A lot of coaches around the country, people that I respect, we've been putting real time in, and it's an organization that doesn't have a lot of fluff to it. We're trying to make real change. We talked about education, awareness, and action. Educating people on the problems in our world, specifically racism and social problems that have been going on for a long time. Next state, making people aware. That's what we're trying to do this week. Our team will wear these shirts. The game's no secret. Racism's on the back, and as well other coaches and teams around the country. And lastly, trying to have some action too, not just awareness, not just education, but making some changes, whether it be making sure that black coaching candidates have a fair chance at jobs and the platform, and all sorts of things that I'm proud to be a part of and proud to be of this group. Specifically, where I come from, I've always said the best basketball coaches are guys that maybe most of us have never heard of. I know in my background, whether it be when I coached in the Lone Star with names that some of you might know, but these are the best coaches that I've ever been around. Lon Reisman, Rick Cooper, Sammy Walker, Pete Peterson, guys that coach at different levels. At the top of this list, and a guy that we honor this week with our racism group, is Coach John McClendon. Recognized as the first black basketball coach at an American university, the first black professional coach in any sport, a member of the Naismith Hall of Fame, a three-time national champion, coach at the NAI level as well as other levels in his career. Of course, I was at NAI when I was in Incarnate Word starting my career. So Coach John McClendon, I'm going to educate our players on coach's career in life. But simply stated, one of the best basketball coaches ever, and also one of the best black Americans ever that helped pave the way for everybody. So Coach McClendon will bring some awareness to his name, his family's name, everything that he did in basketball, as well as proud to be a part of this Eracism group as we try to be a part of solutions in a world where we have all sorts of problems. This week's game, Kansas State, an opponent that we have a lot of respect for, Coach Weber, Hall of Fame coach. They're committed to playing young players this year. They get their full roster back in our game. They've had all sorts of adversity, as all of us have, but they've got their full roster back this weekend. Talented guards inside playing. Like I'd mentioned, playing young players who just continue to get better. You're always going to have to work really hard to score on a Coach Weber K-State team, and you're going to have the patience and grit to lock in and guard for maybe longer periods of time that you have to guard other people. So it's a business trip for us to Manhattan. We're going to have to play well. This game has our complete attention. So it's a big week for us to have a couple days of practice before we travel tomorrow to Manhattan.
All right, we'll go into questions. I guess, Carlos, you want to start us off? All right, Joe, you want to try?
Coach, K-State has lost 9 games in a row, and I was just wondering, have you ever been a part of a team that went through a losing streak quite like that? And if so, what sort of an effect does it have? I mean, how demoralizing is it to go through something quite like that?
Well, first of all, Joe, good job on the mute button. It's one of the few times Wes hasn't had to tell you that this year. It's nice to see. We're asking our players to improve as the year goes on. It looks like you're improving as well with the mute button skills, so good job on that. I don't think you were the word demoralizing. Yeah, I've been a part of all sorts of different teams, winning streaks, losing streaks. What I would tell you about K-State is this is a team that's just getting better as the year goes on. They're in every game. They got a lot of fight. As long as Coach Weber's the coach there, there's going to be no quit. They've had their share of adversity too. I don't think the story's been told as accurate as it should be. They've played without their leading guards for games. They played without bigs. They've had some COVID quarantine. So to my knowledge, they've got the full roster of players for our game on Saturday. So I think they're more than capable of beating anybody in the Big 12, including us. We're going to have to play well. They're a team that has a defensive identity with their size. Sometimes they put 2 7-footers on the floor together. They've got experienced guards. McGurl, one of the best seniors in our league. They're playing young guys that are getting better and better and better. I would argue that Pack's in the running for Big 12 Freshman of the Year. So this is a team that has our full attention. I can't speak for what their locker room's like, but I can tell you, watching games, this is a team that has zero quit. They seem to be playing together. They're still in the running for an NCAA tournament bid when we get to Kansas City. So, this game has our full attention.
Let's go to Ronald.
Coach, as you mentioned, a lot has changed with them since that first meeting that you guys had, but also you guys are progressing there as well. Where have you seen the most growth in your team since the first time playing them?
Yeah, that was a while back. I think with our team, hopefully we're just continuing to improve on both sides of the ball. Defensively, trying to be a more reliable defense, a defense that can get timely stops. In some of our games, the stat sheet shows a decent defensive effort. But when you take a deeper look, we've had some stretches where we just can't get the stop when we need it. Things like transition defense and rebounding and not fouling, just the fundamentals of our game are things we continue to focus on. And I do think we're going in the right direction. Long ways to go, but it's early February. We'll see where we stack up in late February is the goal. Offensive side of the ball, just continuing to try to have that identity, with multiple guys that can get into double figures, the balance between jump shots and attacking, trying to play through Marcus in different areas of the floor. So I think we're a better team than the first time we played K-State, but I think the same could be said for most teams in our league.
All right, let's go to Leah.
Hey, Coach, you talked a little bit earlier about Nigel Pack. When y'all first met K-State, he scored 17 points. Since then, he's been averaging about 16 a game. What do you think he particularly brings to that K-State offense? What's so good about his game?
Yeah, he's a special player. You can take the freshman off his nameplate, and he's still a special player. I mean, he's playing veteran basketball. The stat sheet's real. You look at points per game, assist to turnover, percentages. Seems to have a poise about him and a confidence. And then just, you make the note that he's a freshman, then he's, obviously one of the best young guys in college basketball. So similar to some of the guys we've been fortunate to have here, a McBride at West Virginia. We all saw the greatness in him as a freshman. Look what he's doing as a sophomore. I think Coach Weber's doing a great job with Pack, and he's a freshman, a really good player. Remember watching him a little bit on the circuit. We didn't recruit him, but I was at several games that he was playing in, and he's definitely a top 100 recruit.
Leah, did you guys have another question?
Mr. Ryan King has one for him.
Yes.
Hey, Coach. Just was curious. You mentioned the defense. You had a couple seven, K-State has a couple of those 7-footers, more of that inside defense. But as of right now in the Big 12, their 3-point defense is last in the conference. I know you don't want to give away your game plan, but how can that, factor in for you guys to really be able to take advantage of that in this game?
Yeah, I think the 3-point shot is a weapon for everyone, and it's a concern for everyone's defense. As the game continues to kind of change, it's a much different college basketball than it was just a few short years ago. To me, it kind of trickles down from the NBA, but it's basically the analytics. You shoot a certain percentage from 3. It's the same as shooting that, high percentage from 2 that basketball used to be. So, K-State is a team that uses the 3-point shot on offense. They'll almost always have 4 players on the floor that are that are first catch green light shooters. Then on defense, we're going to have to, when we're on offense and they're on defense, we're going to have to try to find some ways to exploit that. Obviously, when you got that kind of size at the rim, a lot of times there's not a lot of great opportunities closer to the basket, so you have to make some shots to beat a team like K-State.
All right, let's go to Carlos now.
Coach, you've already mentioned it and you've alluded to it, but how do you keep these guys focused, especially after two emotional and one possession, two possession victories where the runs were kind of back and forth and you obviously had some emotional wins?
Yeah, from a coaching standpoint, Carlos, that is things that we spend time thinking about. But, I mean, I would tell you this. If that's my job to keep these guys focused on the next game, then we're not the team that's going to be, playing in the games in March or April we want to. I mean, that stuff's got to come from your locker room. And I think a coach can set it up. He can do only so much. But, I got a lot of confidence in our veterans, starting with Marcus, starting with the guys that have played here in the past, and starting with our transfers. I think our young guys are starting to kind of understand what this deal's all about. But I understand your question. I can just tell you this: the championship teams that I've had a fortune to play on, to coach on, there was an understanding that the most important game is the game on the schedule. But it happens all the time in basketball, right? Houston gets beat last night. Villanova gets beat last night. Florida gets beat last night, and so. That's a great question. It's something that coaches spend a lot of time talking. Is your team going to be ready to play? I can tell you this: everybody in our organization does everything we're supposed to do every single day. We'll do the same thing this week, but ultimately, those players are going to have to show up and play on Saturday.
And with that all in mind, how close do you feel your guys are to playing March basketball? I know it's only February the 4th, but it seems like you're playing at a good pace. It seems like the defense is starting to get there for you.
Yeah, I think it portions of the game, we can make an edit. We can make it a highlight reel of most of our games this year, and we can look pretty good. We're still striving for that 40. It's college basketball is a game of runs. You've got, 10 4-minute games in a college 40-minute game, and you've got to you can't lose the game in one or two of those. You have a chance to maybe win the game in one or two of those, and you got to hold your own in the rest of them. So I think with us, we're still just looking for consistency. I'm looking forward to the day where I really feel like our team went out there and for 40 minutes played the game the right way. Doesn't mean you're going to hit every shot. Doesn't mean you're not going to make mistakes. Doesn't mean you're going to pitch a shutout on defense. But, it's just a way to play this game. And I think our fans and our staff understand that because we've seen some championship basketball here in the last couple of years. This year's team, it's just a consistency is still our biggest challenge. Can we get to where we're playing 40 minutes and not 31, not 32, not 28? That's the task at hand.
You've already mentioned those 10 4-minute games. How have you felt the guys have played in that first 4 minutes in the second half and then the last 4 minutes in the previous couple games where you kind of turn the tide in those 4 minutes?
Yeah, those are focal points for us. I think when you're playing on the road, that first 4 minutes of the second half is always so crucial. And it's not like you got to go out there and win that 4-minute game by 8 or 9 points, but you got to hold your own. You got to hold your own. I think we more than did that. LSU and Oklahoma. That'll be a big focal point here. Manhattan, I'm sure their setup's a little bit different with the COVID, but it's my understanding they're letting some fans in there. It's a real home court advantage they have at K-State. A lot of tradition there. I grew up, and Rolando Blackman was my favorite Dallas Maverick, and he'd played at K-State, and then having a friendship with Tim Floyd, telling me all about Tex Winter and what Coach Weber's done there with Elite Eights, Big 12 championship, NBA players. So K-State, that's basketball country, and they have a home court. So we're going to have to hold our own. We can't get off to a bad start to start the game or the start of the second half. It just doesn't work that way when you play at places like K-State.
Last one from me. Avery's been out with a lower leg injury. What's his status, and how have you liked the way that Clarence and Tyreek have kind of taken the extra minutes that they've been able to kind of play well with?
Yeah, Avery practiced yesterday for the first time, no restrictions. So I'm not going to tell you he's at 100%, but I will tell you he's one of the toughest guys I've coached. He's 100% committed to playing, as need be. And I would think sooner than later he gets back to 100%. But he is cleared and able to play on Saturday. I think Clarence and Bozo have done great with their opportunity, as have other guys on our team. So, team sport, next man up, opportunity comes in different forms. The big story, though, hasn't necessarily been a roster change or an Avery injury. It's really those guys have earned the right to have opportunity at game minutes. Clarence has been practicing well, playing with a different kind of speed and demeanor. Then Bozo is a guy that's contributed a lot this year. I think it's very clear to see where both of those guys' futures could go in basketball. But it's been really nice for everybody, their teammates, me, everybody, to see them contribute in games. And that's a trend that we hope will continue. We're planning on using both those players on Saturday, no doubt about it.
Leah, do you have one more question, or is your hand? You're on mute.
Yes, I do. Thanks. Appreciate it. K-State is a team that struggles with turnovers. So not going too much into your game plan, but how is that something you could take an advantage of when you're playing against a team that doesn't hang on to the ball very well?
Yeah, we always try to be aggressive. It's always a focal point of ours to score offense off of our defense. So I think, K-State, a lot of their problems have been just haven't had a full roster. I can't say that any clearer. This is a game where everybody's back, their front court, their back court. So, I don't think it's going to be just as easy as going down and grabbing the ball from them. But we are going to try to be aggressive on defense. We are going to try to devise a plan where we can create some offense from our defense. That'll be a big part of it. It's very difficult to beat a Bruce Weber coach team when you try to manufacture all your offense from your half-court offense. Their defense is just too good. And, again, I know they're playing some new guys, some young guys, but their defense is real. So for us to score enough points to win, we better figure out a way to get some easy baskets.